Check. I'm going to take you guys through a sneak peek, or I should say a short, quick walkthrough of our brand new sampler and show you guys why it's so exciting and so cool and we're so stoked about it. We've been developing this thing for 2.5 years. But first, I'm going to show you something really awesome. So I'm going to come over here. I've got a mix. It needs drums. I got to turn this thing in. You know, it needs to slam. Okay, let's hear it. There's no drums. Not that heavy because there's no drums. So, all right, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go instantiate Drumforge. I'm going to load the only preset possible, which is the heaviest metal lever. I'm going to come over to the mixer, and I'm going to raise the fader to taste. Now that I'm done air drumming, I am ready to export this mix because it already sounds crushing. The mix is completely done, and this drum sound absolutely crushes. So that is how easy and that is how powerful Drumforge is. I was able to load the sampler, an entire kit, in less than seconds, click 2 times, and raise a single fader just to get the volume set correctly with the mix. And guess what? The entire mix is done, and it's ready to go. And I would now ship this to a client and await their mix revision notes. So that is the drum sampler in a nutshell. So let me just clear this out here, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about what we did and why we did it. So as you guys have known, we've had the Drumforge library out in the market for probably like, I'm going to say 2.5, 3 years, somewhere in that range. And we have finally built the platform that we've always wanted to have for our product. And we have built this thing from the ground up, completely custom, every single thing from the graphics, etc. And it's all optimized for speed, performance, efficiency, so you can spend less time waiting and a lot more time creating. And that is something we are very, very, very excited about. So why did we create a drum sampler? Well, for those of you who don't, or I should say, do a lot of like songwriting and things like that, it's really great when you can just open up something like this, click a button, load your drum sound, and immediately start creating. You don't have to think about getting your drums to sound great. Or maybe you're a mixer, and a lot of people use drum samples. They're a fact and a part of life. And you know, if you're trying to get your radio to mix your radio mix to slam, you may want to rock and roll and use something like this to augment your sounds to get your mix to sound fantastic and get that just really polished A-list drum sound. So you can do pretty much anything in between, and this is a very powerful vehicle to allow you to do that. So let's head over here, and I'm going to walk you through how the plugin works, how it's laid out, and give you some information. And before we start, I should make it a point to say that this is a Q&A session. So if you guys have any questions about how it works, I'm more than happy to answer them after I've kind of gone through this and showed it to you. So just put it in a little bracket with, so bracket Q, bracket, and then ask your question, and then we'll compile them, and we'll go through your questions, and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. So another thing I want to point out is we are very excited at Drumforge because this is going to be your sampler. Now, what do I mean by your sampler? Well, your sampler basically means we're going to take your guys' feedback, and we're going to be doing free life future updates on this platform as it grows and evolves. We're going to be adding all kinds of cool features and things, but most importantly, we're interested to see what you guys think, because you guys are going to help us, our users, generate what features you want in the sampler, what's going to make your life easier and make this a better tool for your creation. So we're going to be collecting and compiling all of your feedback. We're going to be regularly polling and things like that. And we're going to build a little bit of a community around this so that you guys can take this sampler with us and we can help make it the perfect sampler for you. So what you have today is just the starting point, and it's going to grow into something really, really cool, we think. So let's take a look at that starting point. So when you open up the plugin, and I got the drum soloed here just so we can build a kit and go through all that, you have two options. You can load up a preset, which I just did. So you have a preset menu, and you can just click. For example, I want an alternative rock preset or a metal preset or a rock preset. You can see how quickly I can just load, and it's loading entire drum kits. It's just snap, snap, snap. It's very, very fast and very nice and optimized. But if you want to build a kit from scratch and you don't want to use one of our premix kits, you can come over and we have a browser over here. So here's a list of all the different kick drums, for example. And if you double click, you're going to add one. So now that I've added a drum, some different options of navigation have come. You can build the kit. You can edit the kit, or I should say the drum card. Each one of these is considered a drum card. You can edit, you can map, or you can mix. And we'll talk about all that stuff in just a little bit. So let's get a snare drum in here. I'm just going to click on the first thing, and I'm going to grab a set of toms and some cymbals. We need a China, crash, crash 2, crash ride. Let's maybe get a hi-hat in here and a splash cymbal. Did I miss the crash ride? I did. Let me pop that in. Now, that's how fast you can build a kit in Drumforge, and it's very, very easy to change your mind when you're doing this and audition and get the perfect drum sound. So there's a couple different things we happen here. So we have all of these drums that we've just loaded, and each one of these is what is called a drum card. And this is a central concept to this. Instead of having like a kit view, we decided that we're going to go with cards. So you think of each card as like an element. It's not just the drum. There's a lot more contained in it. For example, all these different individual microphones that we've had originally on Drumforge. And like I said, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we have full mixing and everything, and we can do all these adjustments to each card. So you can drag and drop, reorder anything you want. So for example, if you want the kick drum to show up last in the mixer, you can see the kick drum is last in the mixer. Or if I want to move it forward, or for example, you want your China cymbal at the end, your splash cymbal, and you want your hi-hat up here, maybe you want your crash 1, your second crash slot, your ride cymbal, your China. Okay, so let's move the toms in order from low, medium to high. And now our drum kit is built. So each one of these cards, you can mute and solo it. You can remove it. So let's get another kick back in there. And you can reorder it. And Drumforge will allow you to add up to 30 drums per instance of the plugin, which is pretty extreme and pretty crazy if you'd need that many program drums on a kit, but you can do it if you want to. So another very powerful feature here that we're going to talk about in depth in a little while is the ability to switch drums and audition them in real time, which is really powerful because I can sit here and hit play and maybe we don't like this kick drum and we want to get a better one. Oh, it looks like my Cubase wanted to not cooperate. So give me a second. How you guys doing today? So just load up your questions and fire them right on over, and Joe will load them.
Do we want to talk about some questions quick here?
Yeah, sure we do.
Okay. Danny Whalen is asking, is there any drum loops, or have you just got to manually program the drums?
We do not have any drum loops right now, but we will be adding them in the future. That's the plan, and I don't think we'll be having any problems doing that, or you know what I mean? Like it's coming down the line. Right now, we're mostly focused on getting the first version of this out to market, getting your feedback, and then adding in all kinds of cool features and things like that.
Okay. Josh Hissam asks, will you be able to load custom samples?
You will not be able to do that in this version of Drumforge. There is, well, I don't want to talk about future plans, but we have a potential solution coming for that at a future date here. And it's definitely going to be, I think, really cool and really powerful. But I don't want to go too far into detail about that yet because, what one says and the amount of time it takes to develop and do the proper implementation and stuff like that, those are like two totally different things. Next question.
Okay, we got Mitchie K is asking, will it have an easy route out of the sample feature in Contact? It was a pain in the butt. Addictive Drums is very easy to do.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just loading this thing back up here. Hold on. My virtual mix rack just crashed the computer. I have a weird thing with that in iLock, and it doesn't like it sometimes. Okay, so the question was about...
routing out of...
Okay, yes. We're going to cover routing here in a little bit, and the routing is going to be really, really awesome and super cool. We've done this in a very, very intuitive way. Okay, so let me get back here now that my computer is behaving properly. Okay, so anyways, you can audition out drums in real time, and it's really cool. Let me get this soloed out here. You can audition out drums really quick in real time. You can essentially just pick the perfect kit to your needs, which is really nice and really convenient. So that's kind of like a basic idea of how you build a kit in Drumforge. And as you can see, it's extremely fast and very, very capable. We're going to head over here to the edit page now. Now, those of you guys who have gone through the Drumforge 1 library and are familiar with it originally in Contact or Trigger or Drumagog, this is going to be really familiar. But I'm going to take a second to explain how all of that originally works and talk about the library here, just in case there's anybody that's brand new to this. So first and foremost, you have two things. Navigation is done via tabs and this really nifty carousel up here. So first and foremost, we have different modes. We have like the fader section, which is the different individual microphones and engineering setups. We have attack, sustain, release, velocity controls for the MIDI mapping, sample selection, and a configuration where we can do pitching and tuning and semitones and things like that. So depending on which tab is selected, you can fly through this carousel and you can pick whatever drum you want. You can see how fluid it is. This is the beauty of having an all-custom sampler because you have a custom graphics engine that can handle that really fast 60 FPS stuff, and it looks so cool. So you can select in the carousel and whatever tab you have. So if I'm on ASR, for example, now you can see ASR for every single drum. And it's very quick and easy to navigate. So for example, velocity. So your brain is always thinking, and this is done intentionally in one mode. So if you want to think about MIDI mapping and velocity, you can pick which drum and you can just stay in that mode. If you want to think about balancing and mixing, you can stay in that mode while you fly around the carousel and stuff like that. So it's very intuitive. Now, let's start with the fader mode. And like I said, those of you who are familiar with Drumforge 1, bear with me here, but I'm going to explain it. So when we originally made the Drumforge library, we went and we sampled a bunch of drums from like the 40s, 1940s, all the way through modern day classics. And we picked some of the best drums that have ever been recorded and with all original hardware. And we sampled them very meticulously and made this drum pack. And we did something a little bit different. We took different engineering setups and put them on different faders. So a user could go through and very quickly transcend genres. So we have like different room mics and they're mixed to sound different and work. So you can, go boom, boom, boom. You got a death metal kick drum or boom, boom, boom. Now you got like an indie sound, boom, boom, boom. Now you got something that'll work in pop and rock music and things like that. And you don't really need to know a lot about mixing, meaning you never need to open up the mixer in this thing, but you can get a great starting, almost finished drum sound by just adjusting the microphone balance of these drums. So let's talk about that really quick. You have each microphone is laid out like a console here with scribble strips. So on the kicks, we have like a D6, a D112, and an RE20 all in the direct position, and they all sound different. Different room mics. That might sound really good on indie rock, but not so much in really heavy stuff. You have a panner where you can pan each channel to wherever you want. You have mute, solo, and a polarity flip button. You also have the ability to use our processed or flip to our unprocessed samples. It doesn't sound very metal, does it? But a lot of people like to mix the unprocessed samples. So you have full control. If you want to use an unprocessed room, for example, in a pre-processed direct, or an unprocessed direct in a fully processed room, you're totally covered, and it's really cool. So that's how the fader section works. All of those are routed to the master fader here of the drum card. And on anything that's stereo, for example, the overheads, which are baked stereo, so they're recorded positionally, so crashes 1, 2, and 3 are left, and crashes 4, 5, and 6 are on the right side, and you can swap the imaging. So you can swap imaging per channel, or you can do it globally, which will override the individuals. And the reason we gave you the ability to swap on an individual, for example, maybe you want the overhead and then the room on a different imaging, and then you want to flip it or whatever, is just to give you total, complete control over it. Because again, the principle behind this design is to do something that's super easy and intuitive and isn't going to take a lot of work to get happening, but you can get deep and do really crazy stuff if you really want to take it to that level. So that's kind of how the fader works. One other notable feature is on a lot of the overheads, we recorded both a space pair and an XY. So the XY was a ribbon microphone, 2 figure 8. So technically it would be a Blum line, but we call it an XY because most people are familiar with the term XY and not Blum line. And the space pair was recorded with a pair of small diaphragm condensers, and which has a nice wide and bright sound. So you can get vintage sounding hi-hats or really modern sounding hi-hats, for example, and it's, you have full control over your sonic possibilities. So if we come over here, we have the attack, sustain, release section. So for example, if you want to pull the transient off your snare, you can make it tighter, so you can take boom off kick. So it's very powerful. You can solo, you can mute, etc. We have the velocity curve, which is very powerful. So for example, a lot of times if you're mixing, and I make most of my living mixing, so you'll get sessions in, and sometimes people will program something, and you're like, I have to go back and redo all the MIDI notes because it's way too dynamic, or it's not dynamic enough. The velocity curve allows you to go in and just be like, you know what, boom, now it's all really aggressive, so you're gonna get a lot of rim shots. Sounds ridiculous, but it depends on the type of genre and what you're doing, or you can make it more dynamic. You can also set the minimum and maximum velocity, so if I only want to trigger rim shots, or maybe I want to do something kind of in the middle and make it more dynamic. So you have full control in Drumforge over how the sampler behaves and what kind of MIDI interpretation it does, and you can very quickly and easily adjust that per drum card. Heading over here, this is one of my personal favorite solutions when I'm mixing. A big thing when I'm doing like heavy music and heavy radio rock and stuff like that is sometimes I only want 2 samples or maybe like a one shot on a kick. So we decided to go in here, for example, like if you want a one shot, here's all the articulations for the drum, the velocity layers, and you can remove samples so you can only have a one shot. And you can audition them and hear which drum hit you like. So you can make a performance as realistic or as narrow as you want, depending on your like. Because, for example, a lot of big mixers only like a 1 or 2 snare hits to anchor their rock tracks, so they have that great consistency. And then on the fills, they go for more dynamic things. So this will allow you to remove samples that you think in the heavier genres are too weak, or maybe make something more dynamic. And so it gives you full control. And then lastly, like I said, we have a pitch thing, which allows you to pitch up or down 12 semitones. Plus you have sense for really fine tuning. And all these knobs, I should mention, you can do, if you hold down shift, you can do very fine increments and control click resets, just like all of our other plugins. So you can do really fine movement that goes for faders, panners, pretty much anything else in the plugin that you can move or turn. Okay, so that's a basic overview of the edit page. And now let's talk about mapping. So Drumforge has its own mapping, and we think most people are going to really like it. And we've gotten a lot of really great feedback over it over the years, because traditional mapping, especially GM and how it's usually done, is you might have like a hi-hat articulation up here, and then you have to go down a couple octaves to find another one, and then another one is buried here. And it's very not It's not the best way for programming because your brain is like, okay, I want a hi-hat open. Oh, where's that pedal hi-hat? Oh, it's way down here. Or where's that semi-open, loose tip shaft hit? It's over here. We decided to take everything and lay it out on a piano roll. So it's very, very intuitive and very musical. So you're like, here's all of my hi-hat articulations on these several notes here. Here's my crashes with the choke and the regular hits. Here's all my ride articulations. Here's my china, my splash, my kicks, my toms. And everything is laid out in order along the keys of a keyboard. Now, in the event that you want to use somebody else's mapping, for example, if something comes in a different format and you want to interpret it or convert it, you can click on the mapping presets. So for example, you can do Steven Slate drums or Superior, Guitar Pro, or Addictive drums, and you can see it changes the mapping. Now, I'm going to say this as a very important disclaimer. These are interpretations of other companies' mapping. We cannot promise you that it's going to be a one-to-one thing because we use different articulations than, for example, SSD or SD2 might use, or ADD, or, so every drum sampler, depending on how the library is recorded, it's going to have certain articulations and levels of, things that they want on certain notes. And we have our way we do it. They have their ways that they do it. And that may not map one-to-one. So you may need to sit down and you may need to figure out a few articulations. So that's why I say interpretations. So if you're going to sit down, for example, and, like if you want to map out an E-kit or whatever, you're going to have to sit down and convert it all. But once you have it set up, you can save the preset and then just fly in drums. So that's how mapping basically works. The micro stuff, you can change the note right here in the drop-down box. You can reset it, and then if I hit learn, it's going to import the first drum or the first MIDI note, and it's going to relearn it. So now it's a D1 for the kick. If I reset it, boom. Then you can just fly around on the pages and see all the drums. So here's all the articulations for a hi-hat in Drumforge 1. Now let's talk about the mix page, and this is my personal favorite page because we spent at Drumforge so much time and energy making premium quality DSP in this plugin so you could mix your entire drum kit and get it fully mix ready and competitive on major radio, major releases, etc. You can kick out a major label mix in this thing with the stock plugins without having to ever leave the plugin. And a lot of this has already been baked into presets, and hopefully you'll make your own great presets. It's very, very powerful because, like I said, you can just go one button, boom, it loads in a snap, and you're already mixing. And that is something that I feel like is really exciting because you can just be like, hey, I've got this drum mix I really like and I want to write a song, and boom, you load it up and you're already writing the song. You don't have to think about getting the drums to sound great because they already sound exactly how you want them. And we have the mixing firepower in this sampler to give you that big A-list mix that you want and premium quality DSP that's going to go out and that's going to compete with pretty much, we feel like, anything else out on the market. So we're very, very excited about that. So let's go over it and take an in-depth look here. So the mixer is broken down into 3 sections. We have like the DSP section, we have the fader section, and the navigation section for the DSP. What you're seeing now is what's called the overview. And the overview section shows you the chain of how things work. So we have a saturator built in, we have a compressor, an EQ, a clipper, and a reverb on every single drum card. And if I come down here and hit expand on every single individual microphone, because this fader here on the drum card is the same master fader you see right here. So you can go get that D112 back up or that RE20 to where you want it, or whatever you want. And then you can go in and you can do full DSP mixing. Now the tabs down here will allow you to go and do macro views of everything on the mixer. So you want to see only EQs or clipping, or what sends do I have open, etc. What overview, what plugin chains. Because for example, you can drag and drop. Maybe you want your EQ before your saturator and compressor, or your EQ at the end of the chain, or you want EQ but then reverb after that. You can also control and click and turn off or enable any particular send that you want. And if you double click, it will take it to that channel. You can also achieve that by clicking on the top here and, for example, go to the saturator. So let's walk through some of this stuff. You have the overview. Let's start with the saturator. You have a power bypass button. You have different modes, tube, tape, and distort, depending on what you like. So you can just turn it on, how much gain, your output level, etc. You have a compressor. And the compressor is pretty cool because the compressor is built in a way that is optimized for drums, as is all of this. So we tried to really, really simplify this, but make it very, very powerful and incredibly practical. We have a ratio of 1:1 all the way through 25:1. Release times from 10 ms all the way to 3000, and threshold that does has auto makeup gain and goes on 40 dB. You also have a fast and a slow attack time that are pre-baked in here, and then a filter in the detector, which, for example, if you're compressing a kick drum and you don't want to compress the low end because most compressors react directly to low end, you can take that out, and that's a very popular feature you'll see on a lot of analog compressors, like I have it on this one. So the two compressors I have in this rack, or my distressors over here, or this slight dragon compressor, all of these compressors have the ability to put a high pass filter in the detector in the analog world. So it's something that's, I feel like, gaining a lot of popularity. So we deemed it a very essential feature to have, and it's very useful. Then we have a very powerful EQ that's going to look very familiar because it was modeled after the stylings of like an SSL EQ, but we really came in and we tweaked the ranges to make it way more musical and mixable. So the low band starts at 30 hertz and goes all the way up to 450. The low mid frequency starts at 45 hertz, so you can do like crazy resonance boosts on drums and things like that, but goes all the way up to 5,000. The high mid band starts at 200 hertz and goes up to 8K, and the high band starts at 1.5 kHz and goes up to 16 kilohertz. So you have a very large range EQ. And like I said, if you are sitting here and you're on the drum card and you maybe add some, let's add some treble to the snare, and you want even more, you can come in here and you can add it just on the top, or mic the i5 or the 57. So you have the ability to get really, really in depth and have a lot of EQ per channel if you need it without routing anywhere. Then we have a personal favorite over here of Drumforge, which is a clipper, based off our DF Clip plugin, but slightly modified algorithm, because DF Clip is a multi-band clipper. This is a single band clipper. And a clipper, if you're not familiar with clippers, is set up in a way that you're going to take the transient of the drum and bring it closer to the body, which is going to give you more perceived loudness and really help your stuff cut through the mix. And I love clipping because it really just gives those drums nice saturation and just kind of brings them up in your face, and it really lets you cut through a dense mix without having to EQ it or compress it or anything like that. It's like an easy button. Like, I need this to be super loud. Really in your face. Like I said, in the overview mode, you can adjust it. Bypass everything if you want. So moving on from clip, we have reverb. And we have several different reverb presets: 80s, tiled room, small room, mid room, large room, chamber, tunnel, cave, and warehouse. We try to cover all of our bases for drums and dial everything in so it would be usable for your drum mixes. There's a pre-delay knob, and the pre-delay is algorithmic, meaning it is calculated based off the room size. So an 80s or a tiled room is going to have a different pre-delay range than a large room or a small room does. So it allows you to think musically and not have a million buttons to tweak and get confused and overwhelm yourself with presets and parameters. Then you have a wet and dry knob, so you can use this as an insert, or if you want to, you can use this as a send, which is the next thing on the tab here. We can send up to 4 channels. So it's important to note Drumforge has 8 baked in stereo bus groups, and right now everything is routed to output 1. We'll talk about output routing here in a second, but you have 8 groups, and you can send every drum and every single microphone, if you really desire, to up to 4 different sources for an insane, you want parallel saturation and parallel compression and a reverb send, on a certain mic. It's unlimited what you can do, and you can route groups and send groups to other groups and things like that. So you can turn them on by enabling them, the numbers. You can select which group you'd like to, and just collapse this. Congratulations, we are now sending to this group. Here's your gain. Then we can go pre-fader or defaults to post-fader. So that's how sends work. Now let's come down here into the fader section and just talk about this a little bit. Like I said, I've already showed you expand and how cool and powerful that is. This is your output routing box. You can go to 1 of 8 group channels, and right now we have it set at 4 outputs to DAW. But our opinion is you guys are going to fall in love with the mixing of this so much, you're going to not need to output to your DAW because it's all right here and it sounds so great and it's so powerful. And we'll dig into some presets and I'll just show you guys later instead of talking about it. But we can output to any group we want, and you can take the individual microphones if you want and route them away from the microphone and to the groups if you are interested in doing so. So routing is really fast. You can come up here and just pop up a bunch of boxes and, you know, boom, now everything's going to output 4. Now let's go back to kick 3. And, clicked on the wrong spot. And let's send this back to output 1. So, or sorry, output 1, not group 8. So you can route anything pretty much to anywhere. Any of these cards can be routed to either a group or an output or sent to a group. Any of the groups can be routed to other groups or to outputs. So you have full control over the mixer. This is a fully dangerous, powerful weapon of mixing. You can get crazy in depth, or like I said, you know, we've got it set up so you don't need to really even worry about mixing. But we know a lot of you guys like to tweak, so we figured we would make a really powerful vehicle for you to do that. Aside from that, you've got mute, solo, panning, the standard fader, and the names of the channels down here. So that is a basic overview of how the sampler works. Now let me show you a couple other really cool and exciting features about it, and then I'll field your questions. All right, so presets. Like I said, you can just open a preset just like that. Boom, we've got a preset. Now what's cool is let's get this in a mix. Let me, I'm going to come up here and make the preset that I made specifically for this song called The Heaviest Metal Ever. So one thing I love about Drumforge, and that we spent a lot of time making this so you could have this feature, is the ability to take all of the chains that we've made. So for example, I have a whole mixing chain. I have a whole bunch of routing here and EQ and clipping and compressors and etc. on this preset. You know, a certain fader balance on different drums. And a long time was spent making this preset and getting it to behave the way it should to get it to sound. Maybe you create a mixing preset template of your own where you've got everything EQ'd and compressed and routed how you want to, and you just want to get it set up and start changing the drum. And this is where this is really powerful, because you can go in and have a full mix loaded and get everything EQ'd how you want, and then just tweak very easy. So let's audition some kick drums. Maybe we don't like this kick. That it sounds a little bit more natural, but ooh boy, we don't like that snare. Let's find a new snare. We don't like these crashes. We can just pop different crashes in here. And let's grab another one. So very easily you can come in and change and find the perfect drum, and then go in and tweak it. Be like, all right, well, I like this kick, but maybe the D112 sounds better, so let's hear it. You don't have to change any of your routing, any of your mix settings, any of that crazy stuff. More I5 on your snare. More room. Maybe you don't even think that preset sounds good, so maybe you're just like, let's go grab this other preset that is based off of a Soilwork song. And like that any better, or maybe we don't like that at all. Maybe we're just like, all right, well, let's try this slap knot one and see how this sounds. Turn it up. basically I can just go and pick whatever I want. Maybe I don't like that preset. Maybe I want the Guiltiest Pleasure, and we're loading entire drum kits. That sounds awesome to us, but we don't like the snare. So let's go change the snare. So there you have it. That's a pretty good overview of how powerful this is, how quick and easy and intuitive it is laid out. So Joe, if you want to start firing off questions, I'll be happy to answer them or demonstrate anything else anybody's interested in seeing.
Yeah, sure. Quan Chang Chi asks, how do you use other DF expansions in this program?
You do not. Okay, so I don't know how in depth I want to go about this, but basically we will be putting out other Drumforge expansions as their own plugins, okay? And the reason we did that, do I need to get into that? Or, I mean, it was a business decision that was made a long time ago. We've decided that we're going to be putting out expansions as separate individual plugins, but based off of our same sampler technology. So you may see this same sampler, but with your user features and some other things that we add and other cool stuff in it, with new fresh skin and maybe some cool new little tweaks and things like that, and a whole new library. So yes, we're planning to put out actually quite a bit of expansions. We've got some amazing ones lined up that I'm so excited with. I wish I could tell you guys, but you'll just have to wait for them to drop. But we've got a whole bunch of them that have already been recorded and they're ready to go. So we're going to be dropping and releasing those in a timetable that makes sense. So right now, for example, you cannot load the AL Levy expansion in this. It is its own separate plugin. But when Mr. Levy and us get together and put out his new pack, we'll most likely be supporting the current one, or whatever permutation makes sense. So we're going to be putting out, what I'm saying is, individual plugins for expansions, and they're all going to be their own dedicated thing.
Yeah, we got a couple of people that are wondering, can this be used from an external hard drive?
I don't see why not. I mean,
I think the recommendation here is that you use an external that's going to be FireWire 800, USB 3.0, or Thunderbolt, and that the hard drive is an SSD or a 7200 RPM or higher speed drive.
From a technical standpoint, I'm not the most technical programming hardware guy. One thing I understand from the development team is that the limitations of the speed of the sampler, it's so optimized, are essentially down to the speed of your hard drive. So if you're using a 5600 drive? 5400 drive versus what's the faster one, a 72?
Yeah, you got like 72, and then the Raptor drives at like 10,000.
Those are going to perform much faster on the spinning discs as you have higher quality ones. And again, you cannot physically make a hard drive work faster, so we've got it optimized to that point. But for the best performance, in my opinion, I think you should be streaming your samples off an SSD drive because it's just so lightning fast and exciting. So yeah, I mean, you can do it. I think we recommend doing it on an SSD drive and having a dedicated drive for samples, or you can run them on your system drive. I know there's a lot of debate about that, but I'm not smart enough about hardware to answer that fully or have an educated opinion.
Yeah, okay, we got the Crash Harder 01 is asking if there's a small time preset, though.
There is a... Hold on, where is it? A small time preset. There's a lo-fi preset, so... You get that lo-fi breakdown. So that's about as small of a time as you can get, I feel like. So yeah, we have some fun presets in here. We've got some... effects kits, and we've got our old classic contact presets and some stuff like that. So yeah, we made a whole bunch of them, and we might even add more on a future update if you guys want.
Yeah. Huba Cortez asks, will there be a limited free version? I'm assuming he's referring to demo.
Okay, so as of now, and I hate committing to things, especially on something like this publicly, because if something changes for some reason, you can't go back. You can't go back or whatever. So don't take this with a grain of salt. But yes, there are plans for us to do a demo version of this, which I think would be most likely very watered down. It's going to require iLock, which is necessary, And but yes, we would probably give you like a kit or something to play around with. But yeah, we do want to start supporting demos. But now that we're on iLock, it makes it a lot more feasible and reasonable and easier to set up a situation like that. But for us, it was more important to get the first version of this out in a reasonable amount of time and start the process and get it to you guys so you guys can start making great music with it.
Yeah, the same N has a question about should I buy the sampler if I already have the Contact library version? Maybe we should talk to
Yes,
him about
okay.
the upgrades.
So if you guys own Drumforge 1, meaning you have Ultimate, it's a free upgrade, meaning you should be getting, please understand right now our servers are going nuts. So our support team is already overwhelmed and we're in the midst of cross-grading. We sent out some emails and you should be getting an iLock redemption code and a free upgrade to download this. So if you don't have it yet, just give it a couple days. And if not, then email support@drumforge.com. But you'll be getting a free cross-grade. For light and essential SKU users, please contact support@drumforge.com and we'll get you a fair cross-grade because right now we are only supporting Ultimate for the sampler at this current point in time. So we'll get you a fair upgrade price. And for the old people originally who got this on a USB stick from us before we're doing digital downloads, yes, you are qualified for the free upgrade. And if you bought drums from us a la carte, I mean, going way, way back, we will, if you have your receipts, we will track down with you and we'll get you a fair upgrade price at the difference between the amount of money that you've spent to get you cross-graded to the new sampler platform. Because, like I said, and I hope you agree, this is a really great platform for our product, and it's only going to improve and get better as time goes on and we develop and come out with expansions and things like that. So we're really excited about this because this is always the kind of speed and user interface experience we've wanted you guys to have. So like I said, you can spend less time loading and more time just mixing and being creative and not thinking about technical stuff and waiting and all that nonsense.
Yeah, James Z Productions is wondering if there's any way to add more toms into the kit.
Absolutely.
He's used to SD's 5 tom set.
Yeah, well, James, I'll say two things. First off, we're going to have some expansion packs, some really excellent metal ones coming out with tons of toms and ridiculous sets. A lot of these drum sets that were in Drumforge 1 were recorded. They were vintage drums, and a lot of the time, those kits only had 2 toms or 3 toms. So because of the type of library, if you want to do it, I mean, just go grab, okay, so I've got like tom set 6. You can just add another tom here. And then I would come over here and I would simply just, remap it. So pick something, let's just say, if it's E1, I'm just going to say, let's just go D sharp 1 and then come over here to the config page and then maybe pitch it up. To taste, and then you would have 4 toms, and you can, if you want another one, you can go into the lower tom here and add another tom, and then you just have to go, if you have a preset open, you'd have to go into the mixer and route it and stuff. But once you set it up that way, like I said, you can make a preset by simply clicking on load or save here. You can save a preset to your computer, and then all you need to do is just change out the drums. So you can make a couple different mixing and routing templates, or even a mapping if you really want to, and set it up for multiple toms and basically make the perfect kit with the perfect mixing setup. And you can just go fly in different drums and have really simple, quick tweaks, like I said, so you can spend more time mixing and being creative. So just spend a little bit of time to do the setup, and once you have it set up how you want it, you'll be able to rock and roll really fast.
Yeah, Aiden Brock is wondering what would be an appropriate tom to go along with the heaviest metal ever preset.
Let's see which toms I have in there. I think we have the Pearl Masterworks. This preset was inspired by a song we did for Kickforge called Colossus. That's an internal favorite of ours, and modeled after Behemoth and things like that. So, for example, you could load this up if you didn't like the Pearl Masterworks, and you can just flip and okay, now we're on tom 5. It automatically goes to the corresponding toms. So you can just fly through and find the right toms. I've always liked for the heavy stuff, and this is my opinion, I really think if you want to talk metal, some of my favorite kick drums are Kick 4 is super awesome, Kick 5 and Kick 6. Those are really great. I've recently fallen in love with Kick 9. Snare 1 is classic and has been on so many records, from Attila to Vinyl Theater and a million other ones that Joey and I and other people have done. Snare 8 got a lot of love. Snare 13 is what I used on Machine Head. I like Snare 11 a lot for like the metal stuff, like Colin Richardson style. The Joey Jordison snare is always great. Snare 22 is a great active rock snare. Let's talk about toms. The Gretsch toms 2 are like really vintage and really natural and indie sounding. Some of the other ones here are very rock, like Tom Set 5 and 4 and 3. Tom Set 6 is my favorite set of toms. It's really, really nice, and that's been on pretty much everything I've mixed and put out on a decent release, and most of the things Joey's put out in the last couple of years as well. So I think that's a testament to that particular kit. It just gets a lot of love, and it translates very well. And I mean, you can hear those toms on literally Miss May I, Bless the Fall, Attila, Vinyl Theater, Machine Head. Like it's, they're all over the place. Wait, no, sorry. I may have used Tom Set 8 on Machine Head, but if my memory goes correctly. But just goes to show you that there's a lot of really excellent big releases with those toms on, because they just work and they sound awesome. And if you want to just hit cymbals, I know I'm a little long-winded on this, but like China 1 is amazing. I like the Zildjian crashes for the heavy stuff, Hi-Hat 2, Crash Ride 2, and the Splash. And like I said, we're going to be doing some really cool expansions with tons of cymbals and tons of crazy new drums. And we've really taken the concept of Drumforge and expanded it so much in terms of just like the engineering side. The sampler is just now the completion of that, now that we have the platform to support it. So I feel like you guys are going to be really excited about some of the things that we're going to be putting out, and it's going to just really be, it's going to just be next level even. But the sampler is really the key that allows us to do some of the things that we really wanted to do from the beginning.
Yeah. Vantage Audio is wondering, presuming there will be a multi-output option. I'm guessing he's talking about in terms of DAW.
Let me show you how to do it in Cubase, because I'm a Cubase user, but we do have the video manual stuff that will be, if it's not already out, it will be out, that will show you how to do it in different DAWs. In Cubase, if you want multi-outs, when you have the sampler open, you come up here to this little box. Now, Cubase 6 is a little bit different. You have to push F11, load it here, and then there's like a little arrow key over there. And that will allow you to do multi-out routing. But in Cubase 8 and 9, you come up here, you go to activate outputs, hit activate all outputs, and congratulations. Now, boom, we've got all these outputs. And if I route everything to output 2 here, you're going to see it. So there's your multi-output support right there. So much easier than it used to be. It's built right in, a couple clicks. We tried really hard to streamline the way that was implemented versus how it was implemented on previous platforms that we had used.
Yeah, and that's all the questions we have for now.
Well, thank you everybody for participating today. Hopefully this has given you some light. Go check out the brand new Drumforge sampler. And like I said, the most important thing is if you open it up, you're really enjoying it, give us some feedback and some features that you would love to see. And if enough people request something and we think it makes a lot of sense and integrates well into the platform, we're going to be taking your features so we can make this your sampler. And it's going to grow with you guys. And we're so excited about that. And we're going to do this together. And this is going to be a real community endeavor. So thank you guys so much. And hopefully you have a great day and enjoy Drumforging. And hopefully this tool makes your life a lot easier and gets those mixes a lot faster. And we think it will. So thank you very much for your time. Take care.